Ladies and gentlemen, this next discussion is sponsored by South Saskatchewan Community Foundations and is titled Cultivating a Family Legacy with Donations of Farmland. I'd like to introduce Adam Hicks. Adam Hicks, 2 years as the Director of Finance and Strategic Operations with the Saskatchewan Community Foundation. Joined today with Dwayne Guiana, the founding director of Farmland Legacies. He left Farm Credit Canada over 20 years ago to pursue a dream by creating an alternative way of looking at land ownership and how humanity relates to Mother Earth. And they are joined by a farmer who is also a donor. Merv Hepting farms 12 miles north of Lipton, just off the number 35 highway, and is here to talk about how his farming legacy can live on beyond his lifetime. Take it away, Adam.
Hello, folks. Thanks for having us out, and we really appreciate being here. And I promised we have somebody from our staff here today too, but I wanted to see the excitement in this room. So I want to see a yee-haw to make sure that you guys are energized for what the next 45 minutes are going to hold. So can I get a yee-haw as loud as you can in 3, 2, 1? Yee-haw. Ooh, that Brooklyn, was that good enough? No, that wasn't good enough. Okay, she can't hear it. One big one. 1, 2, 3. Yee-haw. Okay, that's good. Okay, energy. So we just wanted to have a chance to be able to talk about legacies, and specifically within Saskatchewan. And we have a number of stories that we're going to be telling today about what legacies look like within Saskatchewan. And so I'm going to pass it on to our friend from Farmland Legacies, and he will. We're going to break this into 3 kind of presentations, and then we'll be open for some questions afterwards. So Dwayne, it is all yours.
Thanks, Adam, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending. I'll start by giving you just a little bit of my personal background. I grew up on a family farm near Radisson, Saskatchewan. It was a mixed farm, and then I stayed and we went strictly dairy farming for another 5 years after high school before I went to the U of S, University of Saskatchewan, where I took an ag economics degree and a background in finance. And part of what prompted that change in career at that point was, as I mentioned, the family farm. And you think differently at 23 than you do at 18. And I kind of started to realize that mom and dad weren't going to be there all the time. And on a dairy farm, that would get pretty tied down and lonely. In the midst of that, my mom was diagnosed with what they thought was early Alzheimer's at age 53. So things were changing. Interest rates were going up. This was in 1977 to 1982. And so I headed off to university. And then I graduated in 86 and joined Farm Credit Canada for approximately 12 years, I guess I was there. And during that time, mom's condition deteriorated. She became bedridden and passed away at age 65. So that had a pretty profound effect on what you want to do and what you think about retirement and those kinds of things. So I learned of some initiatives going on in agriculture. Things had gotten pretty tough during that period at Farm Credit, and we'll get into that a little bit later here. But that's what led me to discover there was some interest in an alternative land ownership model. And through that process, I became involved with Farmland Legacies, which was founded, I guess, technically in 1996. And what it is it's a land trust, and it holds land in perpetuity, never to be bought or sold again. And it's a legacy that people can leave, and it's about thinking ahead and for future generations. That's our mission, to work to, as well, alleviate hunger. We believe strongly in agriculture as an industry to feed people. We hold the farmland in trust, we link land with farmers, and we work with other organizations. And that's led us here today in terms of our discussions with the Community Foundation, food banks, and we believe it's a circular type of model, that if we have healthy land, we've got healthy farms which produce healthy food, and that results in healthy people. So these are just some of our values, and I think, like all of you, what we believe in tends to govern our actions. So we envision a community without hunger that is supported by a healthy mix of farms and food. The landscape with balanced soils and healthy ecosystems will be home to all farmers. And farm influence will be diverse and shared by many. We believe in a renewable and a secure food system. And I guess coming up with those values or that vision was part of what shaped me was my time at Farm Credit Canada from 1986 till 1998. And some of you may well remember that 1986 was a year of debt moratoriums on farm foreclosures, that it came after record high interest rates of the late 70s and early 80s. And it was a very difficult time in agriculture for a lot of people. A lot of people that had backed loans with other land that had to be turned back, and they may or may not have been able to bring that back into their family farm situation someday. But nonetheless, it happened. And I was behind the desk at that point in time, sometimes making loans, sometimes trying to collect on them, dealing with those difficult situations. I unfortunately had to experience borrowers committing suicide, family breakup, all kinds of things that people didn't anticipate that had a very strong impact and largely negative and high stress on the family farm. And so a land trust is a way to, for one, direct the future, leave a legacy as to what you want your farm to be. We create a land management agreement with farmers ahead of time, and then they can direct the proceeds off that land sometimes to charities or other causes that are in their community or that are near and dear to their hearts. Title really only gives you access. A lease gives you access. They're both legal documents that give you the right to be on that land. And so that's what we focus on. We know that it's an alternative model, but it's a way that you can protect that. You can protect it going forward, that your children or ancestors won't necessarily be able to mortgage that or lose control of that land in some of those situations. We try to give preference to younger farmers, age 35 and under. We lease in 5-year increments, and those increments can continue up until age 65, at which time we hope there's a next generation that they can pass that on to. So what is a legacy? Just a definition here, which you may all know, but it is something that someone has achieved that continues to exist after they stop working or die. And that's what Community Foundation is about, is creating legacies that give forever. And this is something you can also do with your farmland if you choose. So it's an estate planning tool for you, but it also can be done in the present. We've had people that have put their land into joint ownership with the same kind of right or survivorship as you might have with a spouse or family member. And they enjoy seeing what's going to happen in this lifetime and not necessarily waiting until they pass on. It depends on each one's financial position. We're not here to make those decisions for you or to try to coerce you into anything, but we're there to discuss the options. And hopefully we can help you decide what's the right fit for your family. And our way of giving back to the community, we have 2 programs. Our first is a beef program. It's called Harvest for Hunger. It began in 2014, and we have to date provided just about 450,000 servings of beef to Saskatchewan people. And it's actually through that program that one of our donors learned about us. He had been somehow connected to the Marion Center here in Regina, which is an emergency food kitchen, and learned that what we were doing, and he came to talk to us about what he would do with his farm in the Melville area. And so that relationship took off quite quickly, and they decided, I guess ethically and morally, it fit their views. So I met with them a couple of times, and then I met with them and their daughter, so that everybody was aware of what they were planning and doing. And they moved forward with putting their family farm into trust. And further to that, we were able to help settle that farm with a young family that had immigrated to Canada from South Africa. And today, now they enjoy quite a good working relationship, and I think it gives the donor family peace of mind to know people are on their farm and to have a bit of a relationship with them. And it's freed them up from some of the responsibility and administration, because we look after that side of it in terms of collecting the rent and paying the taxes. And as long as they're living, most of the proceeds go back to the donor. But at some point in time, when they're no longer here, then he wished the proceeds to continue to support our organization. And that's the type of example that you could expect, and that hopefully in the future there'll be a way to, that we would be working with the Community Foundation, that those funds could support your communities and places that you would like to see that go to. Second to that, we added, those are just some quotes from our people that have benefited. We also have added a couple of years ago a Lentils for Lunch program, we call it. And we fundraise for each of these as well. Sometimes we write grants if proceeds aren't large enough to support the program on its own. We wanted another source of protein, recognizing that society is made up of lots of individuals with different eating preferences. So we wanted to have a plant-based protein as well as an animal-based. So we added that in 2023, and in some ways it's a little easier and simpler, and we've been able to already serve 96,000 servings of protein from that place. What keeps me motivated? Why would I leave a secure government job to do something this crazy? Some people thought in the beginning, especially some members of my family. Well, I was strongly influenced, as I shared, with my mother's experience and realizing that life is short. None of us know how much time we get on this earth. And so for me, it was important to try to do something that was going to be more meaningful to me than putting people in debt. And I guess I have a bit of that never give up attitude. And I also think that everything we do, planned or unplanned, has a ripple effect. And whether it's seen in our lifetime or afterwards, we don't take anything with us when we leave, but perhaps we do leave a legacy behind that has an impact on the future forever. And maybe that's of some spiritual nature, I don't know. But it just feels good to be working for the common good. And I think there's joy in giving, and there's certainly been a lot of joy in working with the people that have put their land in trust to date, because they're forward thinkers, selfless people, and it's just been a real privilege and an honor to have been part of this road for the last nearly 27 years. So I will be at the Community Foundation's booth after the presentation. I've got some pamphlets there and some business cards if anyone wants to stop by and pick those up. Any questions you have, we can discuss there or arrange a private time to talk about this. We know it's a personal journey, and no two farms are the same, no two families are the same, as besides no matter how much we have in common. So thank you for the time this morning.
Okay, thanks. I just want to say too, it's actually, Merv is perfectly in the center, because he is the one that connected our two organizations. And so Dwayne, again, is with Farmland Legacies. Myself, I'm with the Saskatchewan, soon-to-be Saskatchewan Community Foundation. For 55 years, we've been the South Saskatchewan. We are changing the name. But it was actually Merv that made the connection between us, because we've had some donors talk about farmland donations, and we have a number of deals that we've secured, but we had no way to manage the farmland. And so a potential partnership or a group like we have up in here could be a beautiful partnership. And so we just wanted to present some materials, and we have Merv, who will give some more details on his journey.
Good morning. My name is Merv Hefting. I'm from the Lipton district. Our small farm is about 25 miles north of Fort Capel, just off the 35 highway. My grandfather, that's the top left, was a German immigrant, living first in Russia, then in Latvia. His father saw war on the horizon, so he sold 2 horses and got enough money to send his teenage son, my grandfather, to Canada. 2 weeks later, the First World War began. A couple of brothers still at home were scooped up by the German military, and another 2 were shortly thereafter conscripted by the Russians. None were ever seen again. On my other side, that's the bottom left. My great-grandparents came to Canada in the 1890s and farmed in Gretna and then Plumas, Manitoba, before coming to Lipton in 1907. They were one of the early non-Indigenous, non-Jewish, and Lipton was started by Jewish farmers, families in the area. In the top right, I should say, you'll notice there are 2 photos, one of the grandparents and one of me and my cousin trying to replicate the image about 3 years ago. So we didn't come off too bad there. In the top right is a photo, it's from 35 years ago. My young farmers in training. In my early 30s, my kids were too young to help me with the big stuff, and my parents were aging out of farming. I had no siblings. Fortunately, we had 2 excellent farming neighbors who rented the land. I moved to the city and have been here for the last 40 years. I ran a printing and publishing business, and then developed and taught a graphic arts program for SciAst, and finally built online courses for Saskatchewan Polytechnic. Over the years, we were able to purchase some rental homes. Eventually, we moved out of that rental business and we sold the houses. When we sold the houses, my wife and I had 3 goals. Number 1, to not pay any capital gains tax. Many of you can relate to that. Number 2, to find some place where we had confidence the money would grow and be well managed. And number 3, to use the money for good. Most of that money was deposited with South Saskatchewan Community Foundation. That's their logo in the bottom left. We established a donor-advised fund within that organization. This is where the donor can decide how the money is distributed. And we use this to set up a faith-based charity. The charity is called Double Up Opportunities Fund to support local initiatives with matching funds in the area of, again, this is faith-based, evangelism, discipleship, and healing a broken world. On the right are the logos of several organizations that we've been able to partner with. They have initiated the projects, and we have provided matching funding to make those projects become a reality. Some of these local projects include food for immigrants, cultural activities for immigrants and local people, leadership development, and camping programs for inner city kids. The one photo that's a little bit cut off, that's a camping program for inner city kids in Regina. Kids can climb this big tower up there. Based on that success, the confidence we have in the foundation, we are looking to transfer our farmland to Saskatchewan Community Foundation. This is a picture of our farmyard, so that that land can keep on giving forever. Their part is to find the right people to ensure that the farm is properly managed and to promote and to provide reasonable returns. My part is to receive applications for that money and to pass on money to successful applicants and then follow up to make sure that their projects have achieved their goals. What makes someone make a move like that is so contrary to normal estate planning? Well, from the get-go, let me acknowledge that values form the basis of giving. What we believe determines how we will act. So even without a faith foundation, many people impact the world for good. We applaud those good people and their altruistic actions. Why donate the land? Well, from my own Christian perspective, it has all to do with ownership. We acknowledge that the Lord owns it all, not us. We are simply stewards of everything that has been given to us: skills, jobs, possessions, and even the land. There are many scriptures that reinforce this perspective. In fact, there are 2,600 verses in the Bible that speak about wise financial management. Again, why donate the land? There are literally billions of dollars of wealth and land transfers happening within this decade in Saskatchewan. If it all belongs to the Lord, at least some of it ought to go where it can be used for kingdom work. Now then, God doesn't need our money, of course, but he does ask for our hearts. Matthew 6:21 says, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Why donate the land? Personally, I know that I couldn't trust myself with money from the sale of the farm. It would burn a hole in my pocket. Why donate the land? My kids are well launched. I'm sure they would appreciate the money as an inheritance, but they don't really need it to succeed. We've had the conversation with them, and they are of a like mind. Why donate the land? Some of my friends have heirs who have not developed mature financial management skills, or even lifestyle skills for that matter. A sudden large gift of money could ruin their lives and disappear very quickly into thin air. The bottom right shows a picture of a hospital bed. A few years ago, I was in hospital and I shared a room with an 85-year-old grandfather. Suddenly he had a visitor, his young grandson. His grandson was so excited. His grandfather had decided, rather than giving everything as an inheritance, he would give each of his grandchildren $25,000. This young fellow was so excited. He came bounding in and told grandfather all about a fancy motorcycle he had just bought and all the extras that had gone onto that motorcycle. He had splurged it all. But we're talking 25 years ago. Grandfather didn't say a thing. He didn't shed any tears, but you could tell when his grandson left, he was deeply saddened by what had happened to that money. It had just gone poof, with no benefit really to this young man. Why donate the land? Finally, there is no greater accomplishment than raising generous kids. I believe that my generous parents, on the left there, would approve of this decision. And then on the right is my family now, 35 years later, photo taken this summer. If there is any legacy to pass on to my kids, which they can then pass on to their kids, it is one of generosity to others in the name of Christ. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be over there to take your questions or share lunch with you or a chat. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for. I just, I appreciate these two fellows being up here. I just want to give you a little bit of background on myself before I dive into to a few things. And I only got 15 minutes, so for those of you that have met me before, it is hard to fit my my whole passion about this community foundation into 15 minutes. But myself, I'm very active. I was born and raised in Lumsden, very active in our community. I sit on a number of boards, and very passionate about making a difference in our community. Including, I have roots all across Saskatchewan. We have family down in Carlisle, Estevan, Weyburn, here in the city, Bethune, Lumsden, my father's still in Lumsden, all the way up to Prince Albert. My grandmother just turned 81 in Prince Albert, with a bunch of anyways, long story short, we have roots and we have been dedicated, our family's been dedicated to serving this community and the province and helping this province for generations. And I tell you this because even within our own family, I personally have lost some of that history, and it's hard for us to learn about our grandparents, or even your great-grandparents. Or how many of you know the stories of your great-great-great-grandparents? I bet you, if you're like my family, it's hard to carry those things forward. And so the beauty of the Community Foundation, you'll hear about it a little bit, is you have a trusted partner that can carry on your family's legacy for generations to come. And so even within my own family, I turned 40, I turned 40 on this earth this year, and it was a relative I sat down with about 3 months ago, very timely for this conversation, and he explained about my great-great-great-grandmother, which, by the way, the Belfer name, we're from the Belfer clan. My last name is Hicks now, but we all come from the Belfer clan. And Agnes Belfer, I did not know, I knew who Agnes was in our family, but I did not realize that she was actually the first landowner, female landowner, in what was Northwest Territories, which is now Saskatchewan. In our family, she was the first female granted land access in Saskatchewan, here where we are today, and kind of near the Lumsden area on the valley there. And it's beautiful to hear some of these stories, but again, we within our own family haven't had time to celebrate some of the legacies, and we're so busy in our own lives that we get caught up with some of the beautiful things. And the stories behind of how she had to travel and fight for her claims on the land, and there's a whole bunch of stories behind it too. But I tell you this because the Saskatchewan Community Foundation is here to carry on everyone's legacies. And so myself and my family, we're not rich by any stretch of imagination, but we've started a $10,000 legacy last year to support inner city youth. And so at the Community Foundation, we work with families that, like mine, that have a couple $1,000s to start a legacy fund. But we also work with families that have 20 million or more. And so we work with families of all shapes and all sizes, but our core purpose has always been to carry on individual and family legacies, and we get to be the ones to tell your story for those generations to come. And so at the Community Foundation, if I was to wrap up what we do, we honestly can be your own private foundation with none of the work. And what I mean by that too is we're beyond just a private foundation. We again are about celebrating your individual legacies and your family legacies. And so we were started in 1969. Actually, Don Kramer was our first elected president back in 1969. Been very blessed to work with families like the Kramer family and other families as well too. But again, we work with now a couple hundred families since our founding over 55 years ago. And over the generations, the model has been around legacy giving. We have a few other things. We work with the Saskatchewan Rough Rider Foundation. We work with Regina Leader Post Christmas Cheer Fund. We have funds in Meadow Lake, have a new fund in Swift Current, and we work with towns and municipalities. But the core heart of our foundation has always been around legacy giving. And essentially what that means is donations or mineral rights or land, as Merv was talking about, get put into essentially a trust within our Community Foundation, and it is our job to legally, there's a legal deed of gift that is signed, that binds our board to never touch your donations for generations to come. And so in 55 years, we've never had to take a donor dollar ever that's been donated to a legacy fund in our Community Foundation. And how it works is those donations get protected. We invest them into basically like a pension plan. So most of you probably have pension plans. We're basically a pension plan for the charitable sector. And we take a 1 to 1.5% fee to keep our operations going, and 3.5 to 5% goes back to the communities that you love and the charities that you love, and you get to guide where those granting decisions go. And so as Merv talked about, he's very faith-based, and his decisions are very faith-based of where his grants go every single year from his fund that he he's entrusted to the Community Foundation. We again have a couple hundred other families, just like Merv, that have different goals, and we plan with those families to carry on their legacies. And so legacies can live on. I have two quick stories. The G. Murray and the Forbes Fund, I have the honor of continuing to tell their story even 10 to 15 years after they passed away. And three of them, so it was Murray, Edna, and actually the sister, Agnes, that all contributed estate gifts. They made sure their family was taken care of, but they were able to offset a tax bill to make sure the federal government didn't get a part of their estate. They were able to transfer mineral rights to the Community Foundation. Their family was still taken care of and the loved ones, but they were able to, through their estate giving, able to offset their tax burden to their family. And their family, as an example, we've held mineral rights on behalf of the Forbes family for almost 20 years. We manage those mineral rights, we don't take a single fee off of them, and all of the revenue from those mineral rights go back into their family fund, and it's actually, on this family, it's the niece and nephew that get to give out about $1 million of interest earned every single year to 50 charities across Saskatchewan in honor of their aunt and uncle that were able to start this beautiful legacy fund. And another beautiful one is George. I got to meet George last year. He's still kicking at like 93, and he's just he's a really cool guy. If you get to meet him, he's on Main Street in Arcola. He lives about halfway down Main Street there. And I even took a tour of the cemetery. I saw where his parents are in the cemetery there. But George set up a fund with us that grants out to the town of Arcola every single year. And after he passes, so he's given gifts over his lifetime for the last 20 years, since 2008, sorry. And but when he passes, his estate gift will go to build his fund even further. But even right now, the town of Arcola gets a regular check every single year consistently from our foundation forever. And it goes to support the four things that he believes in: his local church, the rink, the community hall, and the cemetery. And it is beautiful hearing George talk about that his fund takes care of where his parents are, but when he passes, he knows that his fund will also take care of the cemetery where he will also lay as well too. So I have a quick 3-minute video that I just want to
South Saskatchewan Community Foundation works with donors and communities right across South Saskatchewan. People who want to give back right where they live or where their business is or where they grew up can work with South Saskatchewan Community Foundation to ensure their community benefits forever from their gifts. George Butt has lived, worked, and been involved in the community of Arcola forever. He created a fund with South Saskatchewan Community Foundation so that he could continue to help his community today and tomorrow.
For a community like Arcola, we are smaller, and having someone like George give back to our community is so huge and beneficial for us. You know, our Prairie Place Hall, our complex in general that has the rink, the curling rink and the hall, is really the heart of our community. And you know, all those facilities and clubs are nonprofit, so having donations towards them really does help plan for the future and keeps them running and keeps the doors open.
The United Church would hold fowl suppers every fall. Lots goes on up at that hall. Like weddings, there's weddings there.
Those facilities are extremely important, actually. If we didn't have any of that stuff, we probably wouldn't have the people that we have around here because they wouldn't have anything to do. It's really important to be able to have stable funding in order to operate and keep things going. If there was more funds like this that brought in more stable funding for us, it would help a lot.
Cemetery Well, that's where my parents are. Guess that's about it.
You know, there is a lot of pride in Arcola and a lot of pride in these small rural communities. And it shows, you know, when people give back to the community and volunteer and, you know, give everything back to the communities. So yeah, it is just so important to keep these rural communities going, because with, like I said, everything, all the expenses getting higher, it definitely makes it tougher on these small communities. So.
George is a man of few words, and but it's beautiful knowing. And by the way, I'm a local elected trustee on the school board. Anyways, I have lots of history on that, and I've been on many boards. And so we have a number of questions from donors sometimes about why don't we give the gifts directly to the charities to the town. And what I can tell you is boards can make changes 50 years from now, 60 years from now. So to have an organization like the Community Foundation that is here for you for generations to come, and to make sure that your legacies are carried out and given back to towns like Arcola is the beauty and the power of the Community Foundation. And Dwayne actually had a quick note as we were talking. I should say too, in our history, we've earned on average about 8% in our 55-year history. And so the excess funds actually go back into your own legacy fund to allow it to continue to grow and build. And so one of our first funds was a $10,000 fund in honor of one of our original founders 50-some years ago. That fund was a $10,000 amount. On my books today, it is $68,000 that it's growing to, and it now produces about $2,500 to $2,800 every year in honor of William England, one of our original 7 founders. And so it's beautiful to see that we have these funds that start with beautiful gifts that just continue growing year after year. And so again, I mentioned we have a number of partners and a number of organizations. We do now manage just over $125 million in assets. We ended last year at 114, and we continue to grow at an exponential pace due to the trust and the belief from folks like you in these rooms here today. And I should say we are always open for a conversation. So not just today, but we are open for a conversation 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or when you're sitting at the kitchen table. We're willing to travel to your kitchen tables to have those conversations. Again, we have a booth over on the side in the middle there, and we're open for conversations for the rest of today as well too. The beautiful thing is though, in the past 5 years, we have earned over $65 million from our investments. That is new money that didn't come from donors, didn't come from government, didn't come from businesses. It is from the earnings of our investments. We've been able to grant out now over $70 million in our history, all from new money that has been generated from the model that we have that continues your legacies for generations. Last year alone, $6 million went out to 240 different charities on behalf of the couple hundred families that we work with. And I just want to say too, is we are experts on gifts. I don't want to get through on all these details, but when folks like Merv come to us, we can be your expert. And I'm working on a $2 million preferred share sale from a farming corporation just south of Regina. We are working on, I have a $3.5 million life insurance policy that somebody's going to use to offset their tax bill to make sure that their kids are taken care of through an offset of life insurance. And so what I'm trying to say is we are open for conversations about estate planning and how you can take care of not only the communities and the charities you love, but also the family and your loved ones as well too. And obviously what we're here today is we truly believe in agricultural legacies, and like all of us are connected to the land as well. We want to be able to help families across this province continue on their legacies. And I have an example of a lady who's she has a section of land, and she's separating it out where 2 quarters are going to go to her family, and she's using the other quarters. Actually, she'll transfer the first quarter by the end of this year. She's working with Vertus Group over there. And the first quarter is going to offset her taxes for the next 5 years, and in 5 years from now, she'll do the second transfer of the other quarter section, and then her family will be able to benefit from the other 2 quarters from the offsetting of those estate taxes. And so, anyways, we are always open for conversations and how to carry on your legacy. In your packages, in your pamphlets or your bag that you would have got when you walked in, you'll have 2 booklets. This one is. We had an anonymous donor that gave us a substantial amount of money that wanted us to tell our story, and it's the reason we were able to sponsor this today. Is it's fully funded by a donor that believes in what we do and wants us, and so this is another gift from that donor, where it's a supplement to your will. I encourage you to take a look at it. It's a beautiful document that I've personally filled out as well too, to make sure my kids know what my wishes are if I pass early. And then the other one is a little bit more about who we are. So in your booklets or in your packages, you'll see this booklet in there. This tells a little bit, it's about 10 pages long. It'll tell you the story of who we are and how you can get a hold of us if you want to have more information. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to plant the seed today. We know it's you're all busy in your worlds, and what we really want, if you want to have a conversation about how you can have a trusted partner to carry on your legacy, we would love to be at your table to have those conversations. And so, and I should say, through your accountants or your lawyers, we can also have anonymous conversations. I have a $20 million land deal that was fully anonymous that we know is coming. But the donor wanted to keep it fully anonymous until he passes, and so we are willing to work with you at the level and the stage that you are at your family table. So yeah, I think we're open for I think there's only about a minute left till lunch, so I don't know how many questions we can fit in, but I'll.
We haven't received any questions on Slido, but anybody have a question?
You're letting us off easy. I like that. No questions. Okay, so again, we will be at the booth on the side there. We are open for conversations, not just today, but always into the future. So, yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Excellent presentation. Some interesting thoughts. So, next on the agenda, everybody's favorite, please wait at your table and catering staff will escort you to the lunch line. Lunch will now be served next door in Hall A. Please be sure to bring your Wednesday coupon, blue in color, to the buffet table. Be sure to thank our lunchtime sponsor, CIBC, and we will continue for the afternoon at 1 p.m. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your lunch.